In Mark 12, verse 24, Jesus gives two basic reasons why the Sadducees got off course in thinking about the resurrection. And these words of Jesus are extremely helpful because most of our own errors, I'll suggest to you, also find their root in these two principal mistakes. Two things Jesus says in verse 24 of Mark 12. First of all, he says, you misunderstand the Scriptures. You don't think there's a resurrection? It's because you misunderstand the Scriptures. Jesus is saying, I know you don't think there's a resurrection, but what does the Bible say? What does the Scriptures say about the resurrection? You see, the Sadducees had elevated reason above revelation. And they'd reasoned that the resurrection couldn't happen, and so that trumped the revelation of Scripture. Most modern critics as well seem not to care at all that the Bible clearly teaches that there is a resurrection. They still find ways to say that there is no resurrection. But Jesus says, you don't understand the Scripture. You don't know the Bible. What a great question. What a great critique, rather, that Jesus offers here. What do the Scriptures say about this? We should be asking ourselves this question, I would suggest, on a daily basis. Not just about the resurrection, but when we come up against problems, when we come up against trials, conflicts, we should be asking ourselves, what does the Bible say about this? What does the Bible say about dating and purity, for example? What does the Bible say about biological engineering? What does the Bible say about our gossip, about the way that we speak? What does the Bible say about depression, or about anger, or about... You see, we could go on and on. But we need to ask, how often are we asking that question? What does the Bible say? And I would suggest to you on a practical note that if we could get in the habit of asking that question, we're sometimes going to come up with, I don't really know. Right? What does the Bible say about this? I'm not really sure what the Bible says. It must say something. Well, let me suggest to you on a practical note, get in the habit of using a concordance. I mean, you should have a concordance handy in your home so that when problems come up, you can turn to the concordance and look up the topic that you're struggling with and see what verses God has to deal with the topic. Now, you might be thinking, we don't have a concordance. Well, if you have an internet connection, you have a concordance. In fact, if you have any question, and if you include the word Bible in that question and search for it in Google, you'll come up with some kind of an answer. Now, the web page and the answer that they give may not be that great, but they'll usually include Bible verses. Right? And you may have to leave aside their commentary, but you have a concordance in the internet. So we should be asking that question, what does the Bible say about this topic? It's interesting, Paul, on at least two occasions recorded in Scripture, asks that question. Galatians 4 verse 30 and Romans 4 verse 3. He says, what does the Scripture say? So it was a very important question to him. So the first error, says Jesus, is that you don't understand the Scripture. What does the Scripture say? The second critique that Jesus offers here to the Sadducees in doubting the resurrection is that he says, you misunderstand the power of God. You misunderstand the power of God. Sometimes the problems in our lives seem to become bigger than the power of God. Perhaps this happens on a regular basis to us. But our problems become so big that we feel like they're bigger than the power of God. That's what the Sadducees have experienced here. They think that they've imagined a problem that God's power can't address. The marital complications of the resurrection are too great for God's power to be able to address. Jesus says, you misunderstand the power of God. How appropriate for our lives as well. We misunderstand the power of God when we think about those unbelieving family members or friends that we think will never get saved. Right? That's misunderstanding the power of God. Or there's conflict in our lives that seem like they'll never be reconciled. Well, that's misunderstanding the power of God. Perhaps we feel like our marriage has become like a ball and chain that we'll never be free from. Right? This misunderstanding of the power of God. Or perhaps our children are an aggravation to us and we think we're never going to get over this aggravation. Well, it's a misunderstanding of the power of God. Jesus would ask us, do you not understand God's power? We recited already this day the Apostles' Creed. What's the first article of the Apostles' Creed? We say, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. And if God is able to create the earth, if He is able to raise the dead, then our problems are not outside of the scope of His power. So Jesus begins by saying there's two root misunderstandings that you have. You don't understand the Scripture, and you doubt the power of God.